And it was just because I like getting up early. And then when we moved, I was like, oh, I'm really tired because I've been like pulling shit up the stairs and whatnot. I started sleeping in again. And then just recently, I was like, all right, no, I'm missing out on valuable time that I have to myself because Ocean sleeps in, right? She stays up late. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing it again. And it's like, oh, now I'm waking up at like 6. And now I'm at 5:30. So it's like, hell yeah.
Nice.
But you get the option though, because if you wake
Hmm.
up and then you go back to sleep, then you're gonna sleep way in. You'll sleep in like double, to like 9 or something. So it's it's how it works. I don't know why it works, but it works.
Garrett, you've been hitting up any coffee shops there in South
No,
Austin? No?
no. I went to there's a moon place or something, half
Summer Moon?
moon or summer moon. Yeah, I did go there once in November and that was good. But no, I pretty much I just got a new desk, which I will show everyone. So
Yeah. Hey,
um
we went live, by the way, on Twitch, so say hi, everybody.
hello.
We made it to Twitch affiliate yesterday.
Nice.
We are
Congrats.
officially Twitch affiliate.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I
Turn
have
up.
for the vast majority of the time philosophy clubs existed, I've had like a shitty $100 Walmart desk. When we moved here, we got rid of that, and I moved up to an okay desk. But recently, I got this giant,
An
ridiculous desk.
amazing desk.
Nice
Now,
desk, dude.
yeah, it was. Thank you. But I got a monitor
I like
now
it.
too, and I'm gonna get another monitor so I can do like actual design work and stuff. But it's huge quality of life improvement.
Did I suddenly just
That
start
might be the
playing
thing though,
Twitch
because
in the
I don't know if
background?
it's because I had my monitor lower than I normally did. Maybe I was doing this all day. That may be why my neck hurts, but I
I
moved it up.
I
So
mean, you just put it up yesterday.
It's probably because you're always
If you
standing.
just put it up
That's the
I
only
yesterday,
think
then
reason.
so.
that's what happened because I'd get
It
that
probably
all the
is.
time. Yeah,
It is.
if I
Have you
move my
noticed?
monitors up or down, I start having neck pain.
Okay, yeah, because I got it. I'm gonna move it up slightly so it's just at eye level then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta figure it out because I'm not used to it. I've literally had the exact same setup for the entire time, except just various like combinations of stupid like on the little desk, I would literally have to like put my speakers together and put the monitor on top of it, so it'd be like way up here. It was terrible. So,
Yeah.
all right, I've got it centered on eye level now, so I'll try that out and see. Hopefully, it fixes it because it's just like if I bend my neck at all, it's like,
It looks good. You can see more of the whole vibe. Your room looks
yeah.
nice. I like that
I
Ion
gotta
the
figure out.
Ion logo back there in the frame. It's
Oh yeah,
nice.
that was it's like paper cut. I got a guy to do it. It's like literally like hundreds of layers of paper that he cut out and did together. It's very cool. It's M7 Arts if you ever want. He does like sacred geometry
Seven
stuff,
Arts.
reasonably priced.
Check it out here. m7arts.com.
Yep.
Not
Yeah, they're
affiliated
very,
with
very,
Triba,
very cool.
but
No,
maybe
he's not.
someday.
They're extremely cool. Very reasonably priced for what they are. I think he did mine for like not more than $200, and it was custom, But he saw it, and he was like, "Oh my god, I love this." I was like, "Hell yeah, I love your stuff." So, um, yeah, super,
I
super
like
cool.
that.
Though, literally tons and tons of these. They're just phenomenal.
This looks like
Um,
stuff that you would design in Figma.
I mean, that's the thing. I saw this, and I was immediately like, "That's the vibe." I think I
Yeah.
saw it at like a festival or some other like event that I went to. I don't know. This was when I was in Reno, I think, but um,
Pretty
I got it
cool.
right before I moved back. At any rate, so today I just tweeted this. I was in a meeting and I was thinking about it. This will be what we talked about. So I have long held the opinion that cities should have brand guides. Literally, any company that is worth a shit has a brand guide, right?
Hmm.
If you're not familiar with a brand guide is a document. Oftentimes, it's a PDF, like a deck or something. Maybe it's a PowerPoint. If people are old school and bad, but basically, a brand guide includes lots of things like, hey, here's the logo, here's the colors, here's the fonts, here's how not to use the logos and colors and fonts, right? It
Right.
gives you rules for, like this. These are pictures that you can use. This is the kind of stock photography that we use. This is how we do the language. We talk like this. We don't use contractions or we don't whatever, right?
Hmm.
And it's just a normal thing. Everyone has them. If you want to see a really terrible one, you can look at the it's not a brand guide exactly, but it kind of is. It's there's a very infamous, terrible when Pepsi rebranded from the old logo to the new logo. There's like this, they paid millions of dollars for this, and it is like the dumbest possible idiot thing. They just made up a bunch of bullshit to justify the price. I'll Sam, if you could find that and share that in the chat, just look up Pepsi brand guide.
I got
Pepsi
you. I got you.
rebrand. Yeah,
I just shared Discords.
so-
That's one of the ones that stood out to me because they have actually like laid out how to use it and everything. I know that's the
a real
goal.
brand guide.
Yeah,
That's what they're like.
Exactly. The stuff you've
If
made
you
like
have
always
Discord, that'd
has
be good.
yeah, always has the elements you need for collaboration too. Because if you're going to do anything with like working with other businesses, you need to be able to give them the guidelines on how to use your brand so they don't just throw it up there somewhere random.
Yeah, so the Discord page that you sent is actually like a style sheet rather. So this is
You
more
said
for, like, a
Pepsi?
website. Yeah, the Pepsi one is really bad. Because they go in and they say, "Oh, well, we looked at like the magnetic frequencies of the Earth, and we looked at all this bullshit," and it was like very clearly they just made this shit up to justify the price that they charge for the Pepsi logo, which is a good logo. You'd be wrong, right? But like the convoluted mental gymnastics that they went through to justify it is asinine. It's really stupid. So
Wonder if this is
anyway.
it. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, here I got a
Because,
static.
yeah, you'll see they get into. You could share the your screen for a second, and we.
Oh,
can
that's a good
talk
idea.
about
Yeah.
this. It's really funny. This seriously though is the world's best example of like why you don't pay $1 million for a brand. So go ahead and just scroll through a little bit, Sam.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was setting it up. I don't even know what I'm looking at.
This might not be it.
Is this not it? Wait, hold on. Let me get it from the Reddit post that I made that I put it on here because they had a downloadable golden number.
This is it. Yeah.
Okay, let's.
It is so phenomenally stupid. No, just do screen height. It'll be weird. Yeah.
What? Is this it?
This is
What
it.
the heck? What the heck?
Just wait,
What
just
is
wait.
this? It's Pepsi?
So stupid.
DNA. Wait, what?
I know.
Now
I
we're
know.
going
Seriously,
back.
keep going. It gets far worse. Like,
How'd it get smaller?
2009 question mark? That's their new logo. Oh my gosh. 770
God.
BC? What
so
the?
they're
Three.
just,
Correct
just,
me if
like,
I'm
making
wrong.
shit up.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they also did like the gravitational orbit of the Pepsi.
Oh, it's
logo.
coming. It's coming. There's a lot of other things coming too.
Dude, I'm like
So,
crying,
yeah, stick
laughing
around.
over here.
Just wait, Sam. We haven't even gotten into it yet. Just wait.
What do you tell me how
This is
fast to go
boring.
here? Oh,
Yeah,
this is
Sam,
boring? Okay.
I'll tell you. This is
That was-
stupid. Stupid. All right, we're getting to it. All right, go a little bit slower now. But it's like, none of this is useful. Those shapes are not helpful. They do this for logos sometimes, and it's
Right.
just dumb.
Well, they just showed one of their logos from the 80s, and it's like the exact same thing, just the circle part.
Yeah.
But they're-
So
Yo, this looks like something Garrett would do, but actually like in a useful way.
yeah, no, they just
Did they just add the Fibonacci in?
yeah, but they didn't. It's not like they're using it. Like
Yeah,
they're
it's just like
this
it's
is not
literally
how you
just
design
thrown in there.
anything.
Nothing
this is not how
about this
anything is
relates.
designed.
Circles.
There you go. All right, this is what we're talking about. This is the dumbest possible thing
Magnetic field. Why?
because they're charging $1 million. They have to pretend it's scientific. I guarantee you, everyone in this meeting was probably applauding. They were like, "Oh my god, they're geniuses!" Right?
The magnetic fields of the Pepsi logo.
It
Pepsi
doesn't-
energy fields.
Force.
It doesn't, like, those circles they drew on the logo don't even line up with the logo. It has nothing to do with it, right? They're just circles. They just put it on there. This is another one. Like,
What? What? 2010?
all right, keep going. So at this point, I
What?
promise you, this is all stuff they came up with
Oh
after
my
they designed the
gosh.
logo. I bet that part was what they actually did. They probably just drew a bunch of different shapes, and they were like, "Okay, which one's the good one?" Right?
And then just
This is
the emoji smiley face version.
yeah. This is nonsense here. Although that would be a very cool can. That's a good design element right there.
Looks like an Xbox logo on its side.
Cool. It's cool. This
Breathtaking
like,
color palette.
Yep, it's blue and it's yellow. You guys
Caffeine-free
fucking nailed it.
diet.
Here you go. Here's some more insane
Gravitational
nonsense.
pull of Pepsi.
Relativity of space and time. Go down a little bit, Sam. Relativity of space and time.
What correlation does this have?
Nothing with anything.
Pepsi
They
aisle.
show the correlation of
That
like,
is cool.
obesity
That's
and humanity.
Yeah, gravitational pull of people who drink Pepsi all day.
They,
Very
I don't think they
high.
should be this shape, but never mind.
Here's some more. Look, Pepsi Planet.
Universe.
Universe.
Pepsi Galaxy,
Oh my God.
Pepsi Universe.
What does that even have to do with any of these diagrams? Nothing at all.
This is them.
8x light year. What?
This is them giving us their master plan to colonize the entire universe. Everything's going to be.
Well, isn't that what they said in Fight Club? They're like, in the future, the companies will name the planets. You'll have the Starbucks space station and the Pepsi planet, right? Like, yeah, no. Anyway, so now that you've seen that, this is the exact opposite of what we're about to talk about.
Doesn't even go with this.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
It does.
You have to understand. Just like, let go. It does not make sense. It's just shit they made up to justify their price tag.
This looks
They
like a high school project, sociology project.
They could have paid literally someone maybe $5 to $10,000 tops for a really good designer to do that logo, right? All of this is just bullshit.
I like.
Wait, so go to the end. What's the
typical
end?
light
What's
path.
the end product
The end
here?
was the Pepsi universe. That was it.
The end is the Pepsi Universe right here. This is the end.
It just ends. It doesn't
8
even
light
have a
years away,
conclusion.
Pepsi is colonizing the galaxy.
Breathtaking creation of identity. The Pepsi universe. Like, what does it even do? What do you do with that? It means nothing.
This is like schizo designing just reasons to drink corn syrup, basically.
Yeah, seriously. So, all right. You can stop sharing now, Sam. We're gonna get into the serious topic, but
Okay, I gotta grab some cayenne pepper real quick.
that's a thing that people grab in meetings. That's a perfectly normal thing to do. Okay, so we can imagine a city or a country or any a company even that doesn't have a brand guide, right? They have, maybe multiple designers that make different things for them. None of their stuff lines up. If you have a city where there's no like building codes, then all your buildings look different. There's no coherence to it. You can imagine a bad brand guide like the one that we saw. So maybe you just have a city that's full of the Pepsi universe or something. I don't know what that would look like, but frankly, I don't want to know. But you can also look at cities and places that have like, Santorini in Greece. If you look up Santorini, it's very beautiful. The buildings all look like they fit together. It makes sense. It's this beautiful kind of place. It's all like white stucco and blue, and it's gorgeous, right? And so if companies that are successful do this thing, it's probably a good idea for any organization to do it, right? Companies don't do things for no reason unless they're Pepsi and they paid $1 million to get that crock of shit. You need to have rules for how things work. That's how human society functions, right? If Triba, if we had 3 designers doing stuff for Triba and one of them did Triba and it was like film noir, gothic, like dark and miserable, it would not fit the brand. It wouldn't make any sense, right? Triba is fun. It's futuristic. It's a party. It's tribal. It is Hawaiian shirts and lasers, right? Like that's the best way to describe it because it's like kind of a fun party, kind of like hanging out at the tiki bar in the jungle, but like with lasers and disco music or something, like techno, cyberpunk type stuff, right? And it makes sense because brand is a thing that you use to tell a story. If Pepsi all of a sudden put out a can that had like heavy metal font on it and it was like dripping in blood, it would be very weird unless it's Halloween. And even then, it would probably still be weird, right? You can only do so much of that without violating the brand. It'd certainly be weird if Coke did it, right? If Coke came out and they had this super gritty, dark thing, it wouldn't mesh with the whole brand of Coke, which is like fun, happy family time. Like, hey, we want to pretend like this is an important part of fun, happy family time. So you guys buy this for barbecues and bar mitzvahs and shit, right? So you can kind of understand with those examples, having no brand is bad. Having a misused brand is potentially worse. But we don't think about this for anything bigger than companies because we don't really think about this at all. There's a small group of people that think about this, and these people are designers and branding experts, marketing people, right? But imagine for a second if you had a city that had a brand guide, right? It was like, hey, you can build whatever you want, but we use these materials, these colors, these patterns, these structures, these shapes, right? Well, you'd have a really cool
Barcelona.
city.
Barcelona.
Barcelona is a fantastic example. Barcelona is one of those beautifully designed cities in the world. Look at the top-down view of Barcelona if anyone wants to pull that up. Barcelona is like geometric perfection. They controlled the height of the buildings, they controlled the materials for the buildings, and it is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous, right? It makes sense. It's easy to navigate. It's beautiful, right? You can still build what you want, but we have some rules and we follow the rules, and that makes the city work. That's how brand works. Brand prevents you from doing stupid things that make the brand stop working. So imagine you have a city guide, city brand guide or city kind of design booklet or whatever you call it. Well, there are some other things that companies have that are interesting, right? Companies have a mission statement. Some of them do, not all of them do. They all should, but good companies have a mission statement. They have values. They have vision. They have purpose. They have conviction. These things that they care about, right? Well, you can imagine what would it be like if countries had, thank you, Sam, for posting these pictures, and Chambi, that's a funny name. Chambi. You can imagine, like, or maybe you can imagine, but let's pretend. Imagine if a country had actual values that it was like, hey, this is what we're about. If you don't like it, this isn't for you, right? You're like, hey, we like honesty. So if the politicians are lying, you can just kick them out. We like community. So if we're, maybe a company is going to come in and destroy all the mom and pop shops, that might be a bad thing. Maybe we don't like that. That kills the community, right? We like integrity. So you have like people that aren't, marketing to you as your leaders. Obviously, we don't have any of these things, but we could. You could think about it and pretend it exists, right? Well, what if a country had a mission statement? What if it was like, hey, we're trying to provide, you could look at what the country's mission statements are now, which is like ensure the highest GDP in the world at the expense of every other country, right? But you could have a mission statement like, hey, we want the highest quality of living in the world by 2100, right? That's a very clear mission statement. That's attainable. What if it was like, hey, we want to have the smartest people on the planet in our country, right? We want to provide the best education or something like that. What if you can imagine building a country. A country is just a giant company, right? They don't act like, we pretend like they're not, and they kind of act like they are, but really not a company that you're a part of, right? It's a company for the rich people and the politicians. But you can imagine this, right? If you have a company and you have a shared mission and a shared vision, if people work there, it's probably because they believe in it, right? There's a really good story. If anyone knows who Andreessen Horowitz is, A16Z is one of the largest venture capital funds in the world and probably the most important one, at least as far as tech is concerned. They had a story that one of the founders, Ben Horowitz, or no, I think it was Mark Andreessen. It was Mark Andreessen on Joe Rogan was telling like, hey, we had a problem where all the employees were starting to get really political and people had different ideas of what we should do, but they were all kind of doing their own thing. And so what they did is they had a meeting. They put everyone in a room and he went up to the whiteboard and he wrote the 3 parts of their mission, which I'll find for you in a second. They actually have a very well articulated philosophy, by the way. So they go into the meeting. He writes all the stuff on the whiteboard and he says, look, some people are in here and they're trying to do things related to politics or whatever, anything except these three things on the board. And if that's you, if you're not here to do these three things on the board, then we're going to give you a really nice severance package. We'll give you a nice referral to your next employer, but you're not going to work here anymore. It's not for you, right? It's not what we're here to do. We're here, and I'll tell you their mission statements, which is we only do first-class business and only in a first-class way. We take a long view of relationships because we are in the relationship business, and we believe in the future and bet the firm that way. Also, there's some other. Okay, there's a lot more than that. These are kind of like values. Actually, they're not really. They're not how I would do values, but they are well articulated, and they have like several paragraphs for each of these, which is pretty cool. So, at any rate, they go in, they say all this stuff. And guess what? Now they don't have that problem anymore because if you're not there for the mission, you shouldn't be there. Why would you be, right? If I go work at a factory and their mission is to like deforest the Amazon and I don't like that they're doing that, why the fuck am I there, right? And this is where people get really confused. People have this thing where we're so used to organizations having no mission or no discernible mission, not a good one, that we just start filling in our own shit. And when you're filling in your own shit, you're probably in the wrong place. Well, if you care about the thing that you're trying to fill in, why aren't you doing your own thing, or at least finding somewhere that agrees with you? But then people do this other thing where they're like, hey, I'm going to try and change the thing that I'm in that clearly is not designed to do the thing that I want it to do. I'm going to try and change it to do something else. It's like, first off, who made you king? Like, if you were going to build a company, go build a company, but you have no right coming in and telling other people how to run their stuff. And this is a controversial opinion in some regards. Like, they have that. There's a famous. I don't know if it went to the Supreme Court or not, but it was a famous case where they had like a cake guy or someone that was either racist or homophobic or something. He's like, well, I don't want to make cakes for whoever, right? It's like any insert minority here. It's like, let that person do it and let that person go out of business. It's not your job to make people do stuff. Let people suffer from the consequences of their own actions, right? Just let it, it'll fall apart. If they're an asshole, like, cool, you'll find out, guess what? Maybe people don't want to buy cakes from racist homophobes or whatever, right? Maybe it's not your job to go in and try and fix things. Make something better, right? Do something that aligns with your mission and vision and values. And if you don't know what those are, you certainly shouldn't be telling other people's what theirs should be. But you should figure out what yours are before you do anything. Because if you don't have that stuff, then you're wandering around in the dark, right? So I think that's a good place to pause if anyone has any input on that, but we can keep riffing if not. Okay, so
I just want to make the quick comment. It's it goes into like the ethics and morality of just capitalism and transactions, and maybe in an individual sense that's preserved, but in an institutional sense, I don't think that's the case. So,
well, here's the thing. So, Tabalo, I know you were here for last year's philosophy club when we were doing all the business philosophy stuff, right? Every single time we looked at industries, right? There's some industries are less philosophical than others. I don't know if anyone remembers when we did banks, but when we did banks, they all have terrible, like non-existent or poorly articulated philosophies, right? But all of the good industries and all of the best companies have really well articulated philosophies because you straight up can't get a group of people to do something together well if you don't paint a picture for them, right? Your mission statement isn't like just something you throw on the website. It's something that tells the people you're working with what you're all trying to do together. The vision is what you're telling, like what you're trying to get out of it, right? Your purpose is why you're trying to do it. Your conviction is why you're the person trying to do it, right? And your values are what you care about. It's how you make decisions, right? One of the things I tell my clients all the time is we make decisions with values. That's why the word evaluate has the word value in it, right? If you value community over profit, you probably won't bring in the company that's going to replace all the mom and pop shops, right? Hey, maybe the stuff's a little bit more expensive, but we don't get Walmart in our small town, right? That's how you make decisions with values, right? Do your values align with your mission? Do your values get you to your vision? You know what I mean? That's all of this is just decision making tools, and it's just articulating this stuff that we don't take out of our head. And when you don't take it out of your head, you can't share it with other people. And if you can't share it with other people, you can't get the team on the same page. And then you end up with companies like Microsoft. Like, why does Microsoft exist? I understand they do things and they make money, but like, what's the purpose of Microsoft existing? It's not anything meaningful. You don't look at like Microsoft and be like, man, they're really doing something important. You're like, they exist. Here's Microsoft.
I would add governments and banks would fall apart without Microsoft Excel.
No, none of that is a comment on the quality of what they do. It's more about how they do it. It's the impression of Microsoft, right? Whereas you look at Apple, at least Steve Jobs' Apple, you're like, oh, I understand why they're doing this like this, right? It had there is some kind of mission. You look at Tesla or SpaceX, it's very clear what the mission is, right? Tesla has a very good mission statement, which is accelerate the global transition to sustainable energy. Great. Very clearly, that's what they're trying to do. People come in and say Tesla's not environmentally friendly. It's like that's their goal. They're trying to do that, right? So you need a mission to bring people together. If you don't have a clear mission, you might get people together, but they're going to be there for the wrong reasons. If you ever have a large enough company at some point, many of your employees will only be there because they want a paycheck, which means they're not bought into the mission and the vision and the values. And that creates lots of problems. Why is anyone at Microsoft, right? I know a buddy of mine who went to go work at Microsoft. He lives in Spain, or he lives in Estonia now. He used to live in Spain. And he went to Microsoft because there were no jobs in town. So, hey, this is a really prestigious job you can get. Well, he's not going there because he loves Microsoft, and he's not going there because he shares anything in common with the mission, vision, and values of Microsoft. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity. I'm going to use this for my own benefit. As you scale in an organization, to some degree, that's inevitable. But also, if you let people in that are only there for the money, your company is going to start moving away from its mission. It doesn't scale correctly, right? And so you have like A16Z where they come in and say, hey, guess what? If you're not here for this, we're kicking you out. We don't care, right? Cool. And then you force people to either, hey, I agree with the mission, or B, I don't, right? Like, that's what you have to do. And that's the thing. A lot of people think of business as just a profit-making venture. And I think that's kind of a naive way of looking at things, although it is the norm. So we could debate how naive it is. But I think really business is a tool to accomplish a mission. You build an organization with a purpose in mind, and it exists to do that purpose, to fulfill that purpose, right? Once you've fulfilled that purpose, you need a new mission, right? If your job is to like dig a hole through Mount Everest, and you get done digging the hole through Mount Everest, well, your job can't be to dig the hole, or else you're just going to keep digging holes through Mount Everest, and then the mountain's going to fall on you, right? Like, it's a dumb thing to do. Maybe a dumb thing to do in the first place, but you could probably build a cool tunnel or something. It might be fun. I don't know. Maybe there's monsters in there. Who knows? But ultimately, money is the blood that makes the body, which is the business, function. And all the departments or all the different limbs or tentacles or something. The head of that is the leadership, but the heart of that is the mission, right? The vision, the purpose, the values, all these core business philosophy concepts, right? And when you don't have this, your business turns into Frankenstein. It's a bunch of random things that are sewn together, doing something, doing what? I don't know, contemplating its own existence. Have you ever read Frankenstein? Frankenstein's actually the smartest character in the book, the monster, rather, not the doctor, right? And he's just like wandering around trying to figure out why he exists and why does his creator hate him. And it's a metaphor for postmodern man, I think, or something like that. But at any rate, that's kind of the way that we need to look at these things. And imagine how fucking cool it would be. Imagine if your city was like, hey, our mission is to make this city the best city in the world. And we're not just talking about GDP, right? We're talking about quality of life, happiness, lowest levels of homelessness, mental illness, right? highest quality of education, highest quality of housing, access to basic resources, right? You know, that would be unbelievably cool. But we can't even agree on that shit. We agree on stupid stuff. They're like, well, maybe we're going to put in an airport in your backyard, or maybe we won't. Right. And then people fight over the minutia because we don't have the same mission and vision in mind. Right. If you can't agree on the big picture, you're going to fight over the small picture. But if you agree on the big picture, you can fight over the small picture as a way to get to the big picture. Right. As long as you're aiming at the same thing. Well, now we have options. Right. If our job is to pick up, you know, a couch, like we're moving somebody, you know, somebody's couch, right? Our job is to pick up the couch and put it into the truck. Well, there are probably 5 different ways we could pick up the couch. Maybe it's like, oh, pick up this side, or we're going to twist it sideways to fit it through the door, or whatever. And you can debate that, but you all agree the goal is to get the couch out of the house and onto the truck. If you don't have a mission that's shared, well, maybe someone's going to pick up the couch. Maybe somebody's going to go get pizza. Maybe somebody's going to sit down and have a break because you don't have a clear goal in mind and it doesn't work. It's very obvious that if you don't have a shared mission, you will not get anything done. Or if you do get stuff done, you're going to get it done wrong or for the wrong reasons, right? It's like having, you know, a headless chicken. It just runs around, you know? And so this is the thing, like when things are implicit, when you don't say them explicitly, you don't tell people what your mission is, people fill it in for themselves. They start coming up with their own ideas. Oh, I'm going to get a job as a journalist so that I can become an activist instead of to report the truth, right? I'm going to get a job as a teacher to teach people whatever the fuck I feel like instead of helping them learn to learn, right? You see where it starts falling apart very quickly. And it's very clear that this is a universal problem in society because we have no shared sense of vision or meaning or mission or any of these things, right? Shared meaning is the thing that holds groups together, right? It can also be shared suffering, but you have to have something to suffer for, right?
Right.
And that's what makes people work together and be happy when they're doing it, is you share something
Shared
bigger
fear.
than yourself.
Shared fear. too.
Yeah, fear is a lower motivator. It works too. It works pretty well. It's not like the thing that makes everyone happy, but that leads into shared suffering, right? Like people generally consider fear to be a bad thing outside of like watching horror movies or going to a haunted house. Um, and actually, most people do live in some degree of fear all the time because they're like, oh no, there's neo-Nazis coming, or the communists are taking over the country, or like they're putting chemicals in the water to turn the frogs gay. There's many versions of that. Both all political dimensions have their own fear narratives, and most people live in fear because they have no greater sense of meaning that helps them overcome their fear and do something useful, right?
Right.
That's the world that we live in. We have a very, very large lack of meaning, and thus there's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs whose job it is to capitalize on market inefficiencies, right? There's a huge market for meaning if you can actually get it and give it to people, right? Why don't more people do this? Why is Tesla more successful than Honda? Well, yeah, their tech is better, but also the company's meaningful. The people are going to go to work and be willing to work harder for longer and do better work because they care about what they're working on. Whereas, like, man, if you're a guy that works at like Chrysler, I
Well,
guarantee you're not stoked about it.
Garrett, I think a lot of it boils down in a nutshell is marketing, right? So it's marketing to your employees, and it's the marketing towards the messaging that you're putting out into the world too, which
Yeah,
creates the success. So it's yeah, having a great mission is good, but it's also a sales job.
marketing is a way to do that, though, is the thing. Or sorry, meaning is a way to do that, the mission and everything, right? So here's this. Okay, so this is a little bit divergent, but I think it's important to hit. So let's talk about, this is something I've been talking about with a bunch of my clients for the last week. In the old days of industry, right? If you worked at a factory in like the 30s or 40s, you probably were really good at what you did, right? Your company probably was really good at what it did. And it probably existed just because it was great. If you were in a steel company, you made good steel, right? It was very efficient. Everybody was probably better, had a better understanding of the process. Whereas nowadays, you know, I worked in a factory. The average factory worker doesn't necessarily need to have a great deal of skill, and it depends on the factory. I was in a pretty industrialized factory, but it's not like you have this great connection to it, or you don't necessarily take a lot of pride in your work. You know, it's like making microchips, and you know, I wasn't like, oh man, look, I put a microchip in that. Like, I don't know where they went. I don't have any connection to them, right? Um, but so back in the day, you would just say, hey, here is a thing that we make that is good. I'm going to tell you how it's good, and you're going to get it because it's the right answer for your problem. And we switched somewhere, maybe Bernays did this, from saying, here's a good thing. How do I tell people about it? To, I have invented this thing. How do I make people want it or make people feel like they need it? Right. And that's kind of where marketing went off track. Now people come up with stuff and then just figure out how to make you want to use it instead of coming up with things that you actually need. Right. That's problematic. But you can look at like fast fashion things like Shein, is notable for this, where they just have, hundreds of ads for crap, or like wish.com, where it's like stuff you absolutely didn't need before they told you about it. That's problematic, right? Carlos says, recently I read a book that said fear is the strongest way to persuade and or manipulate the masses. It was a marketing and sales book. I think fear is very effective if you just want to get people to do stuff, but certainly I would say that a group of people that you're trying to get to do stuff that is fearful is much less powerful or reliable than a group of people that have a shared sense of purpose, right? Like, companies are not built, like good teams are not built because everyone's scared of something. They're built because they believe in something, right? So if you're trying to get a huge group of people to do something minor, like, I'm going to scare you so you vote for my politician, right? You can do that. That works. But look at the difference. Like, I don't know how many people in here remember like the first Obama election, but like that was not a fear-based election. He's a phenomenal speaker. It was very motivational, right? Um, that's not running on fear. That was running on hope, and it worked. And it worked in a way that you feel good about when it's done, right? Versus, let's say, the Trump election, where he's clearly knows how to market based on fear. Um, it doesn't have the same effect. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? And so you can do stuff based off of fear, but what ultimately I would say, outside of the efficacy of it, because maybe it works, but lots of things where you can sell your kidney for money. Is that a good strategy in the long term? No, probably not. Right. You probably make more money selling your kidney than you do going to work. But whatever you do, you are giving permission to everyone else in the world to do more of, right? If you market based on fear, somebody is going to come along who's less ethical than you and more motivated and smarter and do more fearful stuff, and it will come back to haunt you and everyone you care about. So if you are okay with that, which you shouldn't be if you are, but if you are okay with that, then you should expect the world to keep getting worse because you've chosen to participate in making the world worse. And your action inspires everyone around you to do the same shit that you're doing, and they will do it worse than you, right? So I would highly recommend not doing that because we don't need more of that. There's enough of that already. And the reason why there's a lot of it already is because people have been doing it for 100 years. Hey, Bernays came up with the really gross, terrible marketing stuff. Everyone's like, this guy's a genius. Let's do it. And you see, American industrialism goes from being very impressive and not disgusting into disgusting and oppressive very quickly, right? Then the government started using Bernays techniques to overthrow democratically elected governments in South America and many other places in the world. So it's quite bad. Okay, Carlos says, I have a background in sociology, and some classic sociologists agreed that fear and violence are the most strong tool used by governments. In what capacity, I would say, right? Like, here's the difference is I don't personally like FDR at all. I have a lot of problems with his policy decisions, but you can't tell me that FDR was not giving people this big beacon of hope, or Winston Churchill, right? It's like, hey, guess what? The Nazis are doing bad stuff, and so is Japan and Italy, right? But we're going to band together because we're going to overcome this. And they did all the community gardens and had people like, reuse their aluminum foil and recycle and all that kind of stuff. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing. And that is not something that's driven exclusively by fear, right? Just fear is not enough to make people really care. Fear just when you're basically in your brain, you have the three F's, which is technically there are four F's, but I will not name the fourth F, but it's fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Use your imagination on the fourth.
Yeah, you'll figure it out, kids. It's not SFW. So when you activate the fight or flight response, right? You either become aggressive and want to take action, or you become passive and you want to run away, or you freeze, right? It's bad for you to have continually activated fight or flight response. That causes PTSD, especially chronic PTSD, which is also called CPTSD. And it makes you start to view everyone in the world as a threat. You have two basic worldviews that you can have at any given time, which is abundance and scarcity. If everyone in the world had an abundance mindset, there would be no money. Everything would be exchanged because people would work together, and it would be very amazing. If everyone believes in scarcity, then you're going to kill your neighbors for food, even if there's extra food, because you don't believe that there will be extra food tomorrow, right? So every day you are choosing to live in an abundance or a scarcity mindset. Now, mind you, there was a lot less food in 1800 than there is now. There was, before global warming, the world-sized catastrophe was basically that all of the fertilizer in the world in the 1800s came from two places in South America. One of them was the Atacama Desert. One of them was an island off the coast of South America that had a mountain of fossilized bat shit or bird shit or whatever, right? Both of those had very nitrogen-rich soil. As plants are grown, they deplete nitrogen in the soil, right? Now, there's an enormous amount of nitrogen in the air. It's like 70% nitrogen or something like that, but we couldn't use it at the time. So it was like, hey, when the fertilizer runs out, everyone is going to die because all of the crops will fail. So this is a pretty big problem, right? Anyway, these guys in the early 1900s, whose name are Tabor and Bosch, and there's a third guy too, but they didn't talk about him as much in the book. This book that I'm referring to is The Alchemy of Air, by the way. It's a phenomenal book. Very one of the best books of its length. It's quite short relative to a lot of stuff people put out. But anyway, so Tabor and Bosch started working on this in Germany in the early 1900s. So you might be able to imagine where this might be going. But at any rate, they started on this, and they were able to build a machine that could take nitrogen out of the air and produce one drop of ammonia, which is, liquid nitrogen, or it has nitrogen in it, right? They could produce one drop, and then the machine would blow up. So they worked on this for 17 years before they could make industrial quantities of it. There were competitors. It was very serious. Anyway, they succeed in doing this and literally save the lives of everyone on the planet from mass starvation. Like Avengers quality, life-saving thing that happened, right? And of course, not of course, this shouldn't have happened, but one of the guys, either Tabor or Bosch, right? One of the guys was Jewish and ended up working for the Nazis because the same machine that produced the ammonia that you could use to make fertilizer is also the machine that they used to create the gas that they use, mustard gas, and the gas that they used in the Holocaust. So this is why they don't tell the story, because it's very dark at the end, but he was like really wanted their approval and is very bad at any rate. So don't do that. That's what happens when you're not values aligned. The moral of the story being, all of the problems are solvable. Like scarcity is a solvable problem. Land scarcity is a different problem because there's a finite amount of land, and people. Maybe we go to Mars and fix that, but not anytime soon. And I wouldn't rely on that as a solution for anything. But the moral of the story is, if you act like we live in an abundant world, the world gets better. If we act like we live in a scarce world, the world gets worse, right? If you treat human relationships with scarcity, you become controlling and possessive. If you work in business out of a scarcity mindset, you become hyper competitive. You start doing dirty shit to get ahead. You're afraid of losing, so you play the game worse, right? But if you act out of abundance, you're a helpful person to be around. You have better relationships with people. You're happy to share clients or customers or whatever because you know there's always more to go around. There are so many things that exist right now that didn't exist 100 years ago. There's not any scarcity of ideas. There are, frankly, more great ideas than will ever get made. Their ideas are free, right? But we're moving in a direction where there's literally more money to go around than there used to be. And that's not just because of inflation. There's literally the quality of living. If you were 100 years ago, you wouldn't have air conditioning, right? Or 150 at least. You wouldn't have any air conditioning, right? Even if you were rich, you could be fucking Prince of Saudi Arabia and have no air conditioning, right? Now everybody has it. You have it in your frigging car. Like, electric car is broken. Even the most entry level car has air conditioning. And it's similarly like, it's one of the traps that marketers and these manipulative people will get you in, is thinking like, oh, well, only the rich people have this thing. It's like a wave, right? The poorest people have the least amount of stuff, but the poorest person today would literally be richer than the richest person 100 years ago, but for the most part, because you have access to super calorie, maybe 200 years ago, right? Super calorie dense food, much cleaner water. You can get air conditioning in the cheapest car on the market. You can get a cell phone, right? You can use the internet. You have access to more information than literally Nietzsche did 100 years ago. He was probably the best read person alive, right? It's a wave. The richest people right now have what we're all going to have in like 25, 50 years. And the poorest people right now will have all of that stuff in like 50 plus, right? And maybe faster. The rate of change is accelerating, right? So who knows? But the most important part of this is literally abundance mindset. And there is always enough to go around. I think this is one of the biblical quotes is like, be like the lilies of the field. They don't want anything and they have everything given to them, right? Look at how nicely they're clothed. They have everything that they need. So if you act like that, like the universe existence itself provides you with the things that you need, as long as you're moving in the right direction, right? It's very easy. If you're trying to learn, ask people questions. They will teach you, or they'll point you in the right direction. I literally just the other day, I was talking about trying to find some public speaking gigs, and I just tweeted about it, and I had like 5 people hit me up and give me a bunch of advice on stuff that I had never thought of. It's like literally ask and it shall be given to you, right? Whatever you want out of life is there for you to get if you want to get it, and you're willing to do what it takes to get it. And part of that is having a mission and a vision. You need to know what you want, and you need to know what you're trying to get out of it. There you go. Business philosophy. Questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, I was muted. Concerns. Is the China Communist Party taking over?
They're really bad at doing things. So no, I'm not super worried about them because they have internal like cultural structural problems. Like, for example, the best example, the easiest one is if anyone's ever heard of the Three Gorges Dam. It's the biggest dam in the world. It's one of the biggest engineering projects that's ever been accomplished, right? The nature of how China does stuff is really shitty. If you have a culture where you cannot openly tell your superiors that something is wrong without fear of getting re-educated or killed or other things, right? Then you probably won't know if your shit doesn't work because your employees won't tell you, right? So they built this dam. It's ridiculously large. It's very impressive to look at. But so a year or two, sometime in the last 3 years, I think it was during COVID, they had an enormous monsoon season. It was really bad. And so the dam from satellite photography was like moved in, it like buckled in like several inches, right? And so no matter what happens, like there's nothing they can do to fix it. It is going to break at some point. And when it breaks, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will likely drown. And also, many more people will die from famine because it will destroy all of the crops that are downstream of it, right? China is very bad at doing things the right way because their culture is set up to include lots of lying and political gaming. I used to work with a guy named Dustin Mills, who was, when I was at Tesla, he used to be a realtor in China. He was actually on House Hunters International. And he told me that the way that things work is basically that, let's say you want to start a business in China, right? Let's say Sam goes and does White Rabbit in China, right? Well, first off, you have to pay the guy who owns your building. You have to just pay him because that's part of how it works, right? Then his friends are going to come around and you have to pay them some too. And then the local people in town, you're going to have to come pay them. Maybe it's the gangs, maybe it's the government. Then you have to pay the government, right? You have to pay all these people, and everyone's getting paid from all of these people because it's very incestuous and it's very like corrupt, right? And so on top of this, you have an oppressive surveillance state and everyone's lying about things to you. So I'm not super worried about China in the long term outside of like semiconductor manufacturing because Taiwan, they're probably going to try and take over Taiwan at some point. And there are only a few places in the world that make semiconductors, microchips, because they're very, very, very complicated to make. Probably the most complicated thing in the world that I could think of other than like rocket science, but it's probably more complicated than rocket science, honestly. It takes literally like a year to make microchips. It's very, I worked at a factory. It's very complicated, right? So that's a major problem. I would be more concerned that America will fall apart rather
Mhm.
than China destroying it, but we're doing a great job of that ourselves. So most companies rot from the inside. It's unless you're smaller, then you can get crushed by a massive competitor, but big things die slowly and they die from the inside out because they don't have their mission, vision, and values sorted out.
Hmm.
Any
Yeah,
closing thoughts?
that's a good point. I mean, you guys have any questions or comments from the audience? We got a lot of people who showed up here. That's pretty awesome. David's here, Amp, Carlos, Clara. So I almost read my name. Samantha, Tabalo, Zach. How's it going, fam? Oh, my camera's not on right now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think that was a really great episode. We got a lot of information on the branding and mission stuff that is really important and why I think this course or workshop does really well in Triba. All this really matters to your business and your brand and whatever you're trying to accomplish. You need cohesion. I know Zach and I have been talking a little bit about branding. He has an incredible skill set and would like to do more game and development stuff. He's made a lot of really awesome art, music, animations. So I was telling him, talk to Garrett because he'll help you figure out how to bring all that together to make a brand that will stand out and shine. And, that cohesion really matters in the long run, especially when you start working with other people.
Important.
Yeah.
Don't do it, then your company will rot from the inside out.
Yeah, you got to talk with people
That's
and
fear.
see what they
That's
think.
Fear-based marketing, right?
You're going to rot if you don't.
Don't do that. No, yeah. No, the main thing is that what I try to do with stuff is I try to explain good things well, right? I'm not going to help you explain your shitty idea better. If you don't already have that stuff figured out, I cannot make it better. That is not what I do. But if you have something good, oftentimes people who have good ideas have a hard time communicating them. I can help you explain a good thing better.
Yeah, that's what you need if you have a brand, but you don't have that presence online. You're trying to figure out, you have a mission, you know what you want to do. I think it works best with sort of passion or impact-based businesses and ventures. Drop shipping, can't really develop a good solid brand around that. There's no end game, there's no goal. But
the end game is make the founder rich, right? Which is like, that's uninteresting. You can't tell people that, which means you're immediately deceptive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could, if you were honest about it, I think people would probably be down. I mean, I still don't want to work on that, but at least I'd rather people be honest about it.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they're not, and they make up terrible, contrived mission, vision, values that are just like, I don't know, go look at a company that sucks and see if they have any philosophy on their website. And if they do, it's probably bad, right? It's always like that.
We see it time and again. Time and time again.
We should, next week, we should do another website review episode.
Yeah.
I like doing those a lot.
Yeah, if you guys have websites, put them in the co-working chat. And
I mean more like an industry one, but we could do
oh,
that
okay.
too.
Oh yeah,
On the back
I like
end.
it when we do those ones too.
That one is fun.
If you guys
So
have
I haven't
any,
done it in a long time.
yeah, if you have any businesses or industries that you want us to look into, drop them in the comments.
Yeah,
in co-working
we've done,
chat.
Pizza, car companies, banks. Trying to remember some of the
The
other
pizza
ones.
one was great.
Pizza was the best one. That was legitimately the best business philosophy argument that I ever got to make. I talk about that to this day at least once a month.
The pizza philosophy. There's an article on his site as well, ion.enterprises, if y'all want to check it out.
Post it.
I think I backlinked it on Triba's website too, which is live, by the way. Triba.community is live, so maybe we can take a look at that next week too.
Yeah, if you guys like the pizza article, this is literally what we did when I first started the agency. We would just do industry specific like analysis of different companies' philosophy. So we're going to do that again next week. Sam, don't let me forget because I always forget.
I won't.
Cool.
We'll put it out there.
All right, y'all.
Guys, show up next week for the Philosophy Club Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, and make sure you check out the events tab in the top left for the other content. Marketing tomorrow, Friday's game development with Zach. We'll be working in Blender and Unreal. If you like Triba, you want to support us, and you want to get in on the back end where we do a lot of referrals and partnerships, go check out Triba Gold in the top left as well. Garrett, as always, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this valuable information with the community. It really is important.
Yep. Bye, everyone. See ya.
All right, guys. That's it for today. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, Triba, and we'll see you tomorrow. And we're back. This is like after the credits. We get to see a little sneak preview of the Triba trailer. This is the portal that will take you into Triba. After your search for belonging and family has finally come to an end, and you enter a world of business collaboration and personal professional development alongside other people who care about you. That is Triba. And Zach is helping us develop this trailer in a Unreal Engine world, and then we're going to record it, put a voiceover and some audio he's created, and it'll be a really awesome little demonstration in a virtual sense of what Triba is, a physical, digital place for you to connect with other people. Gotta clip that. All right. Anyways, we'll see you Friday to get into this a little bit more.